Well, Marianne, you are running for chair of the Democratic National Committee. The Democrats lost control of Senate and White House. How can you turn it around?
Well, we need a radical transformation from the inside out. We have a tremendous phenomenon on our hands. President-elect Trump has created I often refer to it as a collective adrenaline rush. He has a tremendous sway, tremendous psychological and emotional sway. He's created a movement of unprecedented nature. And in order to counter that and to sort of break the free fall for the Democrats over the next 2 years, we're going to have to create a phenomenon ourselves. We want a new House, a new Senate, and a new president. We're going to have to become a Democratic Party. And I think that the Democratic Party at its best should be the keeper of the story. The DNC should be the keeper of the great American story. We have at times been the best that the world has to offer, and at times we've been some of the worst that the world has to offer. And that struggle is the embodiment of what it means to be an American, always working to protect the best of what we represent, to expand the franchise of the best of what we represent, and also to push back against any systems of injustice that might prevail at any given time. Now, we've done that. We pushed back against slavery. We pushed back against the institutional suppression of women. America has had some very good chapters. We've always ultimately done the right thing. You know, Churchill once said, you can always count on Americans to do the right thing after they've exhausted every other option. So the Democratic Party needs to be, at this time, the container for the pushback against systems of injustice. But we also need the American people to be able to feel that. We need to reconnect the American people not only with the Democratic Party, but with that great American story and with a sense that politics can make a difference. So I feel as chairman of the Democratic National Committee, I can help inspire. We're not going to defeat the forces of MAGA and the Trump forces. And he is the duly elected president, don't get me wrong, but so much of what he represents that we do not agree with will not be defeated just by fighting. We're going to override all that by inspiring the American people to the next great chapter of our history. And that is what I feel I could help make happen as the head of the DNC.
Because it's interesting, isn't it, seeing people fleeing from the Democratic Party, and not only voters, but people like RFK Jr., who I know that you have mentioned that he's a good choice for Donald Trump moving into US Secretary of Health and Human Services. So why do you think it's like people like RFK Jr., Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, to name a few high-profile people that have changed from the Democrats to the Republicans? And I know we've spoken before, you said you wouldn't change to a Republican, but seeing the likes of RFK Jr., for example, who you think is a good choice for Donald Trump.
Well, don't forget, Janie, Bobby Kennedy Jr. tried to run as a Democrat. We didn't have to. The idea that the Republicans are now seen as the great celebrants of preventative medicine and fighting the worst aspects of big pharma, it's like a horrifying failure on the part of the Democratic Party. This should never have been allowed to happen. And so this is when we let get away, as it were. And of course, he just took his toys and he went right over there. As you pointed out, I would not do that because I just do not have. I'm not in alignment. I'm not in agreement politically with the policies of Donald Trump for the most part. You know, when it comes to health, what we really need is what you guys have. We need universal health care like every other advanced nation. We need the same kind of situation as you have in Australia when it comes to tuition-free college and tech school. You have a very good system. So Americans have been trained to expect too little. And when we look at countries like yours, we look at countries in Europe and other advanced nations, I think it's time for Americans to rise up and to demand the same, some of the same, what we would call rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness that they have in other nations such as yours.
What about, would you go on Joe Rogan's podcast? We've seen Trump, Elon Musk going on for a couple of hours.
Of course, I've been trying to go on Joe Rogan for years, actually, when I ran for president. So any American, I think Kamala Harris refusing to go on Joe Rogan was one of the big mistakes that she made during her campaign. He's an American phenomenon, you know, and so yes,
with the Democrats, with the convention, and I know how when you tried to get that open convention, they didn't allow it. There was a whole lot of mess going on there. So as a chair, how would you change that? And do you think how is that going to be changed? And remind us again, just quickly, because we're almost right out of time, what that process was and why we didn't get people from the primaries to the national convention.
Well, the role of the political party, I'm not sure how things work in Australia, but the role of the political party is to stand in the background and let the people decide who the nominees will be. Thomas Jefferson said the only safe repository for power in our country is in the hands of the people. And unfortunately, in the Democratic primary this year, it was declared by the Democratic National Committee that the role of the DNC and the party this time would be to support Biden. And I don't agree with that decision. I believe that the role of the party is to facilitate democracy, not engineer it. And I think that really suppressed enthusiasm. I think a lot of people felt in this race that it had already been decided who the nominee would be. And I know from my own experience that the lengths that they went to de-amplify other candidates, to knock other people off ballots and things like that. And one of the reasons I want to be chairman of the DNC is because I want to clean all that stuff up. It needs a real cultural change, and that will include a little bit of an ethical cleanup as well. I don't think that kind of thing should ever happen again. It obviously didn't help. In fact, I think it hurt a lot. We had a year and a half during which the Republicans had all the oxygen. They were talking about their issues. They were talking about their viewpoints. And Democrats weren't able to just have the that we wanted to have. And, you know, democracy, and you know this, and you're a democracy, obviously, it's messy. It's people talking. It's people having their own opinions. And that's what makes it, I think, the most glorious and most effective way for a nation to govern itself. So the Democratic Party needs to be the holder of that vision. We have a lot to do in the next 2 years, and I feel that if I am the chairman of the DNC, we'll get a lot of our magic back, a lot of our mojo back, and we'll be able to take on Donald Trump's forces in 2026.
And I believe you need to get the support of at least 40 DNC members to qualify. We'll find out very soon. Marianne, always a pleasure to have you on Sky News. Take care, and thank you so much for joining us. Happy 2025. It's going to be a big one.